quickly review since I restarted the stream. We're going to be studying torso anatomy today. We're going to be starting with simplified forms of the torso. We'll get a little bit into anatomical landmarks. We might get into muscle groups, but we're going to be doing a warm-up set using this thing called the Proco Bean. There's a page right here, Proco the Bean right here, and a YouTube video here. That is basically like a simple abstraction of how the torso works. And there's an explanation of how it works here. So we're going to be using it to do a warm-up set of 1-minute poses, where we basically do this a bunch. We start with a line of action for the sweep of the torso, or we start with one of the bean bodies and we intersect it. We can do that too, but generally we start with a line of action. And we get kind of two intersecting ellipsoids for the rib cage and the pelvis. Then we can add in the head and the limbs and stuff in like loose gesture as we see fit. But that's what this is basically the puppet we're going to be using for our warm-up set. So I'm going to have us get started on that shortly. Just let me bring up let's see here. Bring up the figure drawing sets. Let me get stream beats going here. Where's my stream beats? Fucking hell. One sec. All right, so let's get started. Actually, I will start Magma Studio. I think it would be a good idea. All right, so I'm going to try to do this as quickly as I can. Because I want to get this class going. I'm going to link the Magma Studio links, panel 1. Try to keep it to about like 2 to 3 people per panel. Panel 1. Panel 2. Panel 3. Panel 4. And if you run out of space, make sure you save your work and then create a new layer. All right, so let's see here. Get this set up real fast. Display manager, easy range. Go. All right, now we'll be able to see everyone drawing together, or the people that participate in this anyway. All right, so while I'm getting this set up, just start loosening up. Just loosen up your hand and stuff. Do some scribbles and some line drills maybe. 1, 2, panels 1, 2, and 3 can use 1 person each. Try to divide up the drawing space in half if 2 people are on the same drawing space. and try to draw relatively small, because we're going to be doing a pretty brutal set of, I think ones might be a bit much. Let's do twos. Okay, Google, set timer for 21 minutes, 30 seconds.
21 minutes and 30 seconds. And that's starting now.
All right. Whoops. Let's not do that pose. Let's do this pose. All right, so remember, concentrate on using the bean body and stuff. We're going to be this is a warm-up set. So concentrate on getting that gestural feel in. Yeah, you want to start with a nice good sized line of action. We have, this is like these are 2-minute poses, so you have enough time to really like think before you draw. Kind of calibrate myself a bit to the right size I need to draw these. Yeah, these are twos. So I'm gonna tend to favor making like my rib cage a little longer. That's not the center line that I just drew, by the way. That's line of action. I'm still getting warmed up a bit, so. It's gonna take me a bit to get acclimated to using this. But try to keep it simple. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Look for that line of action first for the torso. Think about like where those ovoid shapes sit. If you can, try to like look for the pit of the neck as your starting point for like the center line and get down to wherever the pit of the crotch is. Keep things very simple though, just using kind of like simple wire limbs for the body, basically. Wire limbs for the arms and legs. Because we're concentrating on just basically like simple forms of the torso. We want a good strong feel to the line of action of these poses. Don't move on from the torso unless you've established the torso first. Like, if you draw nothing else but the bean body torso in the 2 minutes, then that's better than like rushing too fast, I would say. The 2 minutes should be enough time for you to think before you draw a little bit. Again, look for that torso. Look for that torso sweep of the line of action. it goes off the page like this, just do as much, just like, you can either adjust the pose to give yourself more room to draw it, or you can do what I did and you just draw up as far as the page goes. Remember, look for the pit of the neck. Right there. Down to the crotch for the center line. Pretty good turnout tonight. We had 60 people in here earlier, but then I guess about 20 people flipped off. But we got 40 viewers right now, so that's pretty good for tonight. And I would encourage those 40 viewers to stay around to the end. What I'm going to be trying to have us do today is I'm going to have us all try to build a skeleton. We're all going to be building like a Frankenstein monster of anatomy parts today, in addition to the torso practice we're doing. So again, think before you draw. If you jump a little bit too early and whoa, maybe erase or Control Z that and take a good look at what the line of action is actually doing. Oops, I don't quite. If you don't get it quite right, maybe erase it and try again. If you get something that kind of feels right, and you can go in and you can start making your ellipses for the torso and the pelvis. I'm not doing exactly the Proco bean right now. I'm doing kind of like this sort of thing, by the way. But I wanted to direct people's attention to the Proco bean for like further study outside of this. So we'll probably utilize him more in the future. What we're mainly going to be doing tonight is I'm going to be reviewing like the anatomical landmarks of the torso. We'll see if we can get to the muscle groups today. And I also want to pay close attention to Ethan Becker's video of a really simplified way to practice torso anatomy, or torso structure rather. So we might take a look at that towards the end, but I want to get people started with like an overview of how the torso works a little bit. So that you're not just going blind into Ethan's video.
Oh, hey, Spacedad.
Yeah?
Earlier we had like something like 90 viewers on Twitch for a little bit. It was interesting.
Huh. That might have been a miscount. Who knows? Sometimes Twitch like freaks out and does like weird miscounts of viewership or some shit. I only saw about like 60 viewers at one point. It doesn't mean anything unless the viewers stick around. So for this one, I'm actually kind of starting with a little bit more of the gesture because it's two figures and I kind of need to correlate them a little bit. But now I can throw the torso in. But do you see how simple that is? Like if you start using this method as a way to break down and understand what you're seeing, it clears out a lot of the noise in your head of like all the complex things that you're looking at to use a simple method like this. And then you can concentrate on what the poses are actually doing. Because you can always build anatomy on top of something like this later. In fact, something I was considering having us do is like do a bunch of these and then we layer the anatomy in. I don't think it would be good to do that today though. It'd be a bit much. But we'll see. I at least want to get people started with this stuff. Oh yeah, also, guess what? I'm enrolling in a 8-week animation class that's starting in April, in addition to that storyboarding class that I was enrolling in.
Hey, congrats.
Yay. It's being taught by a good friend of mine. So he'll be able to devote time. He's a really good animator. And he'll be able to devote time and attention that I can pay him for his time and his professional attention. Yeah. So I jumped in, so this for this one right here, I jumped in a little bit too early with it, so I'm gonna actually roll back since I have time to do that. But I'm gonna show you, like, this is what happens if you go on autopilot a little bit and you lose track of your approach. So what I should have done is I should have paid attention to what that line of action is actually doing in the torso. So something a little bit more like this, I think. Pretty good bend to it. I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit too. Like, think of a strategy of how you can exaggerate a bit. Try to go a little bit beyond what the figure's doing if you can, because if you screw up, at least it looks more dynamic than it would otherwise. That's a tip from Steve Houston, by the way. If you're gonna mess up, at least your screw up should look dynamic and energetic. So try to err on the side of exaggeration and dynamics. All right, so this one's a really interesting one. His line of action almost seems like an S curve to me from the torso. So it's like this. So we got the upper torso kind of pointing up over this way, with the hips sort of tilting here. So notice I'm kind of the reason I'm doing that this way is because, like, this oblong shape lets me kind of establish the tilt of the hips a little bit more than just like the bare Proco bean would. That's just a preference for this that I'm using. You can use that, or you can use the Proco bean. Whatever works for you for this warm-up set. So I'm hoping, like, for Friday and Saturday, I want us to get into motion studies. Friday will probably be more. Friday I'll try to see if I can get us started on some live action motion studies, and Saturday we'll really focus on live action motion studies, and be taking a look at some cool animation again. Like, I want to make checking out cool animation and storyboards and animatics to learn from a regular thing on Saturdays. Sakugaburu Saturday. But see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, if you want to screw up, you want to screw up on the side of dynamics. That's why I'm trying to, like, make my figures look really energetic and fluid, and I'm trying to have fun with them. So even if you're messing up, at least mess up in a way that looks cool or looks fun or has good energy to it. This one's tricky because his torso is very foreshortened, so I'm kind of doing a quick guess here. This is probably not on, but I'm just gonna roll with this because this one's a tricky pose. It's very contained in that foreshortened area there. I'm gonna add a center line to that head. The cool thing is if you do mess up and it looks dynamic, like, I mean, like something like this, I got kind of the proportions of the figures off a bit, but it still feels nice. Like this is something that I could turn into a character drawing or something. Like, it's still kind of usable. Again, like, take a good look and see what... It can help to, if you close one eye and you hold your pencil and draw your pencil over the figure in front of your eye to kind of figure out what the angle of something is. Like you can go over it and try to find, you can go over like this pose, for example, and try to find the line of action, and you just kind of mimic the motion that you took with your hand. Actually, no, her torso is not doing that. It's doing more like this, like this. It's doing a C-curve, isn't it? Also, something to note about this is a Dutch tilt. So that means the horizon line is at a weird tilty angle. That means your head is cockeyed, basically. Either that or else the set she's standing on is. I think the head is cockeyed, or the camera is cockeyed in this case. I think I could have pushed and exaggerated that a bit more because her hip is kind of like pushed up a bit more. Anyway, can't dwell on it too long. I've got another pose to do. This is actually, I think, from the Bodies in Motion site, which is something I actually want to sign up for in the future. I don't know if I'll be able to use it on my streams for our practice sessions, but like for my Discord study groups, we can probably use it as study fodder if I sign up for like the paid version. Please donate to the stream. There's donate links below with my Ko-fi link, which gives a direct donation to my PayPal. And if you have a Twitch Prime sub that you're not using, or if you just want to just do it like throw me bits or give me subs, every little bit helps. Even a few dollars will help me pay for the cost of stuff like the Magnet Studio app that I'm using right here. I'm using the paid version, so I have like special brushes, and I can access open up like about like 5 different instances of the app, stuff like that. Just makes it a really nice tool to use for classes. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're about halfway through with these. I'm going to do this guy real quick, but then I'm going to suggest that people save your work and get ready to clear your drawing space. I actually may pause the pose just so we can do that. So if you're in Magma Studio, save your work. But after this pose, I'll give people like a little bit of time to do that. So that's not quite the line of action of that pose, is it? The legs feel right, but the line of action doesn't. Line of action is more like this. Oh. Yeah, that's right. I miscalculated. I forgot we're doing 2s, not 1s. Silly me. So yeah, this is a good amount of poses. All right, well, but nevertheless, when you get done with this figure, make sure you save your work, but leave it on screen for now. You're going to need a blank drawing slate for the next thing, but leave it on screen so I can take a peek at what people have done for the warm-ups. And in fact, I'm going to put us on a 10-minute break, although we might come back a little bit before that. Okay, Google, set timer for 10 minutes.
10 minutes, starting now.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Clip Studio. Today the 17th? Yeah, today the 17th. Okay. 3/17, 21, class demos. Wednesday. Torso. Bills 1. There we go. So I might do another set of these. So I think people are settling into these a little bit later, but no, I'm pretty satisfied with what people are doing. There's some people that are kind of newish, so they're probably going to be a little bit kind of shaky with these, but what I want people doing for this next thing is we're going to be doing some directed torso practice. So let's see here. Do I have a folder yet of torso anatomy? I had it on my old computer.
I remember you sharing a folder of a PureRef file of Michael Hampton's torso reference.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, I'll try to have something on screen here that's kind of related. Oh, this is good. Yeah, so this is kind of related to what we're going to be doing first. we're going to be doing a anatomy drill using the landmarks of the torso and using 3D models as our reference. We'll probably get into some muscle group stuff too. 1 second here. Yes. Okay, I think for today we are going to do basically, let me find it. Let me get this real quick for you. We're going to do basically this. This is from Michael Hampton's book, which I do recommend picking up. That's the other thing I was going to mention. I'm going to be putting together a list of art books. This is one of the art books that I'll recommend. It's Michael Hampton's figure drawing. Michael Hampton, Figure Drawing, Design and Invention. Should be fairly easy to find, like on Amazon. I think there's even an ebook version of it. Let's see here. Maybe I can do this. Nope. Alright, so I'm going to post this in the Drawing Corner chat for people to reference. Those are some nice warm-ups, by the way, Farashi. Alright, so this will be handy on my side here when we do this. I'm gonna set up a really weird setup here. Just want to make sure I have this image at least. Right there. And here's our buddy, the skeleton. Whoops. Here's our buddy, the 3D skeleton that we're going to be using. Right here. So I'll copy this guy into chat. I'm going to be making not today, but I'm going to be making a collection. Actually, maybe a little bit later today. I'm going to make a little collection of torso anatomy reference. Maybe I'll just start it right now here. Let's see, add to, create a new collection. Torso anatomy reference. There we go. Torso anatomy reference. I could have sworn I had another one with like full figures or something. This one kind of looks like an Andrew Loomis torso. This one might be a little off. It's hard for me to say though. I think it worked. No, I think it works pretty well. The chest seems a little flat to me though. But it kind of seems in the ballpark of a Loomis figure to me. This one's definitely usable. This one's got exaggerated hips right here, but it could be handy too. This one's looking a little strange to me. I do like the cutaway view, but like the way the muscles are kind of layered sort of bugs me a bit. I'll hold on to it though. This one's much more useful, I would say. So if we get into muscle groups, we'll probably be looking at this one. Alright, so make sure you've saved your work and clear your drawing space with some fresh layers. Give yourself plenty of space to draw a torso and skeleton. And it's very important that you save your work because we may actually be building out the skeleton some more next time we meet up. And do like anatomy stuff. I'm gonna be trying to like maybe have us do a series of classes where we like build a Frankenstein body basically piece by piece of parts of anatomy. So you have like this working anatomy chart for yourself. Anyway, so those are this is a collection I threw together of not everything in here is like the best reference. Some of it is really good, some of it's kind of eh. So I may curate this a little bit, but this is what I've thrown in here for now. Because there's at least a few things in there that are really good. So I'll throw this in both here and there. But the main thing we're going to be using right now is going to be this skeleton. Oh. Okay, Google, stop. Just on time. Lovely.
If you just asked about canceling a timer, there are actually none set at the moment.
Jesus. I'll cancel you. Alrighty, so. Alright. Just gonna warm up my hand a little bit. Alright, so. First things first, we want to establish the proportions of the body. And we get that first by establishing our head. So everyone get ready. I want everyone to do a nice, simple ellipse for the head. We're just going to keep it a simple ellipse. This is the skull. Right here. Now down the center of that, I want you to... I think there's a line tool where you can hold shift or something in Magma. But I want you to get like some kind of either use a line tool to guide yourself, or you try to eyeball it. You want to get like something like a plumb line going straight down a good ways. Stuff. So the proportions we're going to be used is the top of the head to the base of the pelvis is going to be about 4 heads for this, because we're going to be using like an 8-head figure basically. So measure that out. Like this is 1 head unit right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Out here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. 1, 2. It's a little bit off, I think. 1, 2, 2. Right there. Double check it and stuff. If it's a little bit off, it's not a huge deal, but just try to get it like as close as you can. So we're only drawing the torso, so you only need 4 heads. We're only drawing the torso right now, so you only need 4 heads. But like we have enough information here, if you did want to build the legs, you can just like add 4 more heads for the rest of the body stuff. So just try to get that so it's looking about right. Try to eyeball it. If something's looking a little short, stuff, just make little adjustments. I'll give people a little time to get that set up. Alright, now that you have that scaffold, lower the opacity on that and create a new layer. And I'm going to have you construct a head real quick. So, what do we do to construct a head? Well, we do a circle shape like that. Center line. Bottom of the chin, just about. We get the side planes right there. We get the eye line that's about the halfway point of the head here. A little bit higher than that is the brow line, which is also where the top of the ears are. And I'm going to have us do the Ethan Becker wedge real quick. This kind of raccoon eyes looking thing here. I'm just having us put in like a simple head. When you have that, now that we have like something that's kind of like a little bit, it's more than just like a little ellipse. Now that we have something that we can gauge a little bit more with. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be plotting out where our proportional measurements are. So this is where the bottom of the sternum is going to be, right here. That one head down. That's about where the bottom of the sternum is going to be. This is about where the top of the pelvis is going to be. And of course that's the pit of the crotch. So let's see here. All right, so this head, generally speaking, like your heads are looking fairly like proportionate wise. So what I want you to do, like, see this length right here for the head? What I want you to do is scoot that over here. Scoot a copy of like the over there and over there. And then when you have that, boom. Now you've got the proportional sides of your torso, basically. So we no longer need those. And again, if something is slightly off, it's not a huge deal, because this is like a this is about understanding the information and using these kind of measurement tools. You can do more precise measurements. Again, I would encourage people to do drills like these, drills in anatomy and stuff that are more kind of directed on their own time after this. The lower opacity on this little measurement thing right here. So now that we have this, let's get like the box of the rib cage and the pelvis kind of going here. Actually, no, that is not the top of the pelvis. The top of the pelvis would be about here. Like about... So the pelvis is about like this high, I would say, like somewhere around like where the brow of the head is in height. So something like that. In proportion. This is like let's see here, 1, 2. Let's be a little more stickler for my proportions real quick. This is somewhere in the spine, like one of the vertebrae right there. Let's see, the bottom of the distance between the bottom of the rib cage and the pelvis is about half a head. And since we did a halfway line on our head up here, we can just use the measurement of that. So here's the bottom, roughly here's where the bottom of the rib cage should be, somewhere around. Actually, I think it should be a little bit higher right here. So the length of the sternum is going to be about like this long, I would say. Pit of the neck, right here. Down the sternum. Something's looking a little off to me. Let me try to figure out what it... Let me try to diagnose what it is. I think it's because I don't have the rest of the torso drawn in, so we'll keep moving ahead. Alright, so I'm going to have us box off the shoulders here. A little bit higher. Just a little bit higher than the pit of the neck there. Just creating some box forms to sort of gauge the proportions that we have so far. That's looking pretty okay, I would say. Lower opacity a little bit on that. And now what I want people doing is I want to create a egg shape for the rib cage. It's going to go up here. Like so. It actually would, if this was an egg shape that kept going, it would go like a little bit further down there, but that's where the bottom of the rib cage opens up. So what we have here, we have kind of like a P, if we simplify this, would be kind of a, this would be kind of like a peace sign sort of thing, but we're going to add a little bit of space here with a little line there. Then we're going to do two kind of slightly curved lines down to here and here. So now we got a pretty serviceable rib cage structure in there. And now we're going to do the pelvis. So for the pelvis, let's see. We're going to use one of the anatomical landmarks right here. Those little bottom corners of the rib cage right there. We're going to triangulate to the pit of the crotch like that. And also we're going to move these down a little ways because the pelvis is actually tilted towards us. And I think that's what might be throwing things off for me, because this is like proportionally a little bit right, but the pelvis is going to be aimed a little bit towards us. So we're going to do a little kind of ellipse dish right here. Do another ellipse down here too. Get like a basic sort of dish shape for the pelvis. All right, we're going to go back up and we're going to define the clavicle a little bit more and the sternum. So first we're going to create this kind of necktie shape for the sternum. There's a little block shape that's going in there for the top of the sternum. And there's a little segment right here that's color-coded in blue on this right here that we're going to be adding the clavicle to. Clavicle is kind of a bicycle handle shape that you can see on the anatomical skeleton here. Like wraps up in this kind of weird like bike handle shape that connects up with the these shoulder blades. This little protrusion that comes off the shoulder blades at the top of the shoulder. So let's see, a couple observations. I think I needed more space for the neck. I think what's throwing it off for me is there needs to be a little less, slightly less distance here and a little bit more distance between the head and the neck. So I'm going to maybe see if I can adjust that a bit. Here we go. Now we got a little bit more of a neck. I'll just scoot the pelvis up a little ways. Yeah, that's feeling a little bit better for me. So I'm going to turn off the other stuff I had. There we go. Now I get this kind of like floating ghost thing. So I'm going to add a spine there. Just a centerline spine. My centerline spine is looking fine. So, I'm going to give everyone a little bit to catch up. It's okay if you're new to this, like there's a lot of little nuances that are going on here, like in how you handle like the egg shape of the rib cage and things like that, that are going to be something you're going to have to practice with observation and stuff. I would suggest like doing rotation studies on this guy. In fact, let's do that. In fact, that was what I was going to do. So, when you have this thing, when you have your scaffold all together, hopefully like on a single layer, if you can merge layers in Magma Studio, I don't know. But when you have everything ready to go, like this, lower opacity on the whole thing, create a new layer, and we're going to walk through creating a profile view of the same thing. So, we're going to start with a kind of like a oblong potato shape for the head. Well, actually, no, we're going to start with a ovoid shape for the head, because this is rotating right here. Our halfway point between the ear and the jaw was right here. The jaw line at the bottom of the jaw is going to go about there. We're going to use that little corner that we drew to measure this little corner of the jaw here. It's kind of like get a little bit of like a downward curve like that for the front of the face. This isn't going to be like a perfect skull by any means. We just want a simple abstraction here. I'm going to throw the Ethan Becker face wedge on this now in profile view. And just for good measure, let's see here. Yeah, I'm gonna throw a ellipsoid circle in here. About here would be like where the ear is. Stuff, the top of the ear, the top of the brow. Anyway, so I just wanted something serviceable in there. Build out the jaw a little bit. So, when you have that, maybe scoot this a bit here. No. When you have that, we're gonna take some measurements, but then we're going to move this over to the side here. So I want you to take some measurements. This is the measurement for the sternum, measurement for the bottom of the sternum, the top of the sternum and the bottom of the sternum, measurement for the shoulders right here. Goes about here. I'm actually thinking of a better strategy to do this. Here, I'm gonna delete that. Sorry about that, folks. All right, so remember the Proco bean that we were doing with warm-ups earlier today? Well, we're gonna do that again, but this time we're gonna do it while paying attention to the sweep of the spine. So I want you to do this. Do a kind of a C curve like this, down to about here, like where that is, right there. C curve from the back of the neck down here. Then I want it to bulge out like this. Like over, you can see how it's like bulging and curving right there. Look at the skeleton here too, for reference. And then spine comes forward like so. About here. So that's one section of the spine, second section of the spine. And this is the third section of the spine down here, the tailbone, kind of. So we just want a line for this for now. So this is one part line of action, one part spine. But just so you know, we can simplify the spine into three sections right here. This is 1, 2, 3. Which is the neck, the main torso area of the spine, and then the tailbone that inserts into the hips. Alright, so when you have that, we're going to be creating an egg shape. In the rib cage, the bottom of the egg shape should be should extend down to about like where the corners of our rib cage were. The top of it should come up here, and the top of it should peak about here, where the neck intersects there. One thing I want you to do here, by the way, I didn't point this out when we did the front view, is like there's an ellipse opening for the neck. When the that ellipse is actually tilted towards us. So that means when it's in profile like this, it's gonna be like, you can see it on the skeleton here. When it's in profile like this, it would normally actually be like flat like that, but you can tilt it slightly so it's visible to us a bit. Also, like, something's off with this jaw here. I'm gonna adjust it maybe. That jaw and that face is just bugging me. Something about it. I don't know. It's probably because I didn't build off the face enough. That's probably why. I don't know. Well, anyway, so getting back to the torso. So once you get this nice rib cage egg shape established in there, if you notice when you rotate the skeleton here, like this Kind of looks like it's tracing over itself a bit. At least on that side, doesn't it? Anyway, so the next thing we want is we want to make a structure for the pelvis, and I think that I actually want to push the spine back, the lower spine back a little ways, so I have more space to do that. Or actually, I think that's going to throw me off if I have that there, so I'm going to erase that there for now. Try to eyeball this where I think the spine is. So remember, it's the same dish shape as that first one we did. It's just turned to the side. So remember, this dish shape also is like, it's a little bit wide, by the way. It's gonna be a little bit thinner toward when it's turned towards us, like so. It's a bit off. Let's get that ellipse a little bit more honest. There we go. All right. So we'll just throw in a little indication of like the clavicle. The clavicle is heavily foreshortened towards us, so just keep in mind that little bicycle shape. It's got to be bicycle handlebar shape. Got to be something like this. Probably put a little bit of an indication of it on the other side too. The sternum, just like you can put a little pointy end right there to kind of signify that it's there. A little block shape right there for the top of the sternum. You can add a little opening here on the side of the rib cage, so we see a little bit up into the rib cage. And that should be more or less your profile view of the skeleton. Oh, we left out one important thing, which is the shoulder blades. So we're not going to be paying a huge amount of attention to them from this angle, but look, so look very closely right here. You see this bone right here that's coming up from the scapula, the shoulder blade here? There's a bone that comes up from here and touches with that bicycle handlebar of the clavicle right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this thing called the bone zone, which if you notice, like the top of if you look at the skeleton from the top, you can see there's this kind of ring that's created by the scapula and the clavicle. It's kind of like, you could almost like simplify it like this. This kind of ring, or where that happens, and like the scapula's back there or whatever. But I've taken to calling it the bone zone. It just is a way to remember. And I gotta reset this. So all we're going to do for this is we're going to include like a little bit of that like kind of turning little form right there. And then like a little indication of scapula. Scapula is pretty close to like the front of the face in length, I think. So just put a little indication of like that on the back. The scapula wraps over the torso like if you do a wrap over the form like that, these bones kind of like float slightly off the rib cage from the back. And they also move around depending on what your arm is doing. So now that you have that, we're going to do a 3/4 view. So scoot this little guy over to the side here. Oh. Let's move this then. So we should be pretty familiar with our measurements from the front in the 3/4 view by now. And we have 2 points of reference to utilize for that. So I'm going to have us be a little bit bolder with this. Remember, so we're going to jump in, we're going to start with an ellipse, or we'll start with a sphere for the head. Eye line's about here. Brow line's about there. We have the side plane of the head here. So we get this established right here, side plane of the head. Get the Ethan Becker wedge in there. Oh, that's what was off. That should have, I got the eye line a bit off there. That's what was off on this one. So we just need something serviceable in the 3/4 view for this. I'm going to go back and fix that error I made. But I'm going to do that with the magic of a draw over. So this should be a bit more down here. Yeah, I'm just going to move on. Alright, so once we have the head fairly well established in here, let's turn our skeleton reference to about 3/4 here. So what do we do? Put in the first part of the spine, spine part 1. Curve that sucker in 3/4 view. Looking at our skeleton reference. What do we do next? Well, we tilt the ellipse towards us in a 3/4 view. You can measure the top and the bottom of the ellipse right here. And now that the origin point is going to start at the base of the spine, we're right there. We angle the hips towards us there. Bottom of the rib cage here. Top of the rib cage here. Get our egg shape going again, and also you can check it over here by putting it over there. Top of the sternum. And we create this peace sign right here in 3/4 view. It's a simplification of the opening at the bottom of the rib cage there. Then we get the bicycle handlebar shape of the clavicle, which shape is going to be modified again because it's in 3/4 view. You can see this gets shorter and compresses more as it turns to face us or turns away from us in space. And also, check this out. Look, center line. You see that purple line that Michael Hampton did over the figure? Don't worry. Now that we walk through this, the next step, we're going to be using this scaffold that we've created to talk about the anatomical landmarks that he's put there. I think we should also do a back view, but the back view is going to be easy to do because we'll just trace over the 3/4 and the front view of the figure that we've done. In fact, we'll do that before we move on too much. But yeah, try to use your judgment and stuff and the measurement tools that you have. I'll let you guys catch up with that. The Michael Hampton reference is right there if you want to refer to it as well in my Discord. And it's also on screen here. But what we're going to do is I want everyone to catch up and use the whoops. Use the 3/4 view to do a tracing draw over to do a 3/4 back view, and use the front view with a tracing draw over to do a back view. Refer to the Michael Hampton reference and of course to the 3D skeleton model as you're doing them. So I'm going to start with the back view here. And literally it's just look at Michael Hampton. The big difference is the shoulder blades. I think I should touch on those a little bit more, but let's see here. So there's more of the bottom of the rib cage that closes up from the back view, you see, but it still connects to the bottom corners of the rib cage like that. But the gap between the shoulders would be about here. You can use like basic triangles if you want for these, but you can also follow Michael Hampton's structures that he made for his. I'm gonna use something that's a little close to what he's done. So you get these straight lines here, that there, this here. All right, and we're seeing the pelvis tilt away from us from this view. So that means we're going to see the bottom ellipse of the pelvis instead of the front. There's also a little triangle wedge at the base of the spine that you can see that Michael Hampton color-coded with green. We're going to add that here too. So two of these, like, so let's say you're doing a simplified figure drawing. You're doing it from the front. You can usually tell, like, signifiers, easy signifiers of how to draw, for like indicating the front. Like usually it's like the pectorals, corners of the front of the hips and stuff like that. But if you're drawing from the rear, if you want to give some telegraphs that you're looking at the back of the figure, you do a little triangle wedge at the base of the buttocks. And maybe like the shoulder blades, like that. Little shorthand indicators. So now, since we're looking at this from the rear, we got like, base of the neck is about there, and the spine just connects up into there. And then we're looking at the jaw from the rear, through here. And of course, remember that what I told you about the bone zone, right? Well, look at what's happening here. We're going to add something that Michael Hampton didn't. So you take your little clavicle, and you run like a line. It's going up over there. That's kind of like doing Imagine it going back into 3D space, like kind of curving around and connecting up with the clavicle, basically. So just do a little indication like that on either side. Like that. Remember, like those shapes, those scapula, these are not flat. These are not like flat 2D surfaces. In fact, if you wanted to reinforce that, let's say you can bend this a little bit to make it look a little bit more like these are wrapping over the body. One thing I do want to point out also about the torso, the front versus the back. Let's say you're looking straight down on top. Actually, let's take a look at this guy here. So you see when I'm looking straight down, like the front of the torso versus the back, right here. This is what the ribcage looks like in simplified form from above. It does not look like this. It looks like this. That's right. From the top, it looks like a butt. So can you tell what side this is facing? Well, of course you can. That's the spine right back there. This is the front right there. But that's what's happening here. Like, the bones and muscles are inserting into the spine, like here. Wrapping over the torso back there. So just keep that in mind. Anyway. So now we have a pretty serviceable thing. I'm going to maybe like draw a really like light line for like the indication of the clavicle on the other side too, because why not? So now that I have that, I'm going to take this, scoot it over here. I also now have a reference point for what I'm doing that I'm going to have alongside here as I'm doing my 3/4 rear. So, same thing. We have like the work cut out for us here. Like, I made this head a little thin, I think. But in any case, look at this. Like, all I do is I flip the ellipse to the other side of the face, like that. Jawline goes there. Yeah, I did some really weird things with this head. This is not my best head. But, nevertheless. All you're doing is just mirroring this, pretty much, from the other way around. You check this out, like base of the neck, right there. We get our first section of the spine, going to the top of the rib cage down here. Spine going down, following the same curve, roughly the same curve, except it's like turned at a different angle now. So remember what we did before? Now this side of the ellipse is visible. This side of the ellipse is turned away from us. And then you can use that measurement here. And these measurements here to create that opening at the bottom of the rib cage, like so. Remember, these are kind of curving in like that. You can see them on the ribs there. All right, so for the scapula, this is going to be a little tricky. But refer to the Michael Hampton thing. Don't worry. Remember your training. All right, let's see. I think I got this a little off actually. I'm gonna make some brief adjustments here. Like the top of the neck needs to go up a little higher. Mind you, I'm not expecting these to be perfect. You can work on perfection on your own time. This is a demo to get you started. So, start thinking three-dimensionally as you're doing this. So we got these two right here, just about. So start wrapping these forms over the body. Take a look at the Michael Hampton thing. That'll help you. That'll help give you a little bit more of a starting point to wrap your head around. So here, check it out. That's wrapping a little bit there. Oh, here, one sec. This goes over here. Okay. I'm not expecting perfect shoulder blades here, by the way. These are tricky. So we're just doing some abstract forms that we can throw in here. Adjust this a bit so it's not so visually confused. But I just need something serviceable. And then same thing. Clavicle wraps around to the clavicle here. Wraps around, and you can correlate these like that across, like there. Wraps around, connects to the clavicle back over there. There we go. We got our torso. So this head, this 3/4 head is bugging the hell out of me. I'm gonna maybe fix it a bit before we move on. I'm gonna give everyone a chance to catch up. Remember, kids, the butt crack extends along the spine. It does. It's a butt that goes up your spine is basically a butt that goes up the entire back. I think that should be a little bigger. So once we get done with this, we're going to... Oh, hang on one sec. We're going to do anatomical landmarks. We might get to muscle groups today, but I don't know. So when you get done, you should have a little kind of nice little turnaround here. I'm going to arrange these so it's a nicely organized turnaround now. One, there's two. Okay, there's my front. Here's my 3/4. Yay. Oh, also, if you've done this right, then taking this into an animation software. So I'm going to give everyone a break right now so you can catch up. Okay, Google, set timer for 10 minutes. Okay, Google, set timer for 10 minutes.
10 minutes, and that's starting now.
But before we move on to the next thing, I'm going to take these images into a animation file in Clip Studio and show you like how this can be animated. So if you've done a turnaround like this, you only need like 5 poses for a turnaround. You need a front, you need a back, You need a front 3/4, a back 3/4, and a side view. That's enough to start your turnaround. You will be doing in-betweens in between each of these in order to make a smooth turnaround. But if you have those 5 poses to start with, that's all you need, because you flip the poses in order to double them up for the rotation. I'm thinking we may actually hold off on that, because I want to do the color-coded landmarks first before we do that. Because if we take this into the animation thing, we can make the color-coded landmarks rotate in 3D space too, which would be fun. So, common mistakes. Well, first off, let's take a look at K-Bear here. Open my Magma. Where's my Magma Studio? Fucking hell. It's back here, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Okay. Alright, so common mistakes. And mind you, I don't expect people that are like new to this and stuff to get this right. Lord knows I need more practice to get it right too. But let me point out some common mistakes that I'm gonna see people make. Well, first off, here's a common mistake. I do like, there is a little bit of a dimensionality to that head and stuff, but I can see you're kind of fighting the drawing tools right now. Try to get yourself set in a way that you can, if the drawing tools are fighting you, and if you have smoother results in another drawing program, try to use that drawing program instead of this, I would say. I mean, it's fun to use clips. You can participate in Clip Studio every now and then and stuff, but when you're doing your practice on your own later, maybe like try to use whatever's going to give you nice smooth line control and stuff, because these are kind of chicken scratchy, so that they're going to be a little bit hard on you. You need smooth line movements and stuff to build your stuff. But I do like there is a sense of three-dimensionality to this head that I like. This one gets a little flat here because I think you got a little confused there, but that's okay. Good effort though, in spite of you. It's clear that you're fighting the drawing tools right now. So common mistake right here is making the space between the pelvis and the torso too big. There's a few other mistakes that I'm seeing here that I'm going to do a quick demo draw over on. Let me see if I can find a suitable layer. Move this up here. Alright, so red line correction real quick on this profile view. Well, first off, this is looking pretty flat right here. You want to start with a strong, solid egg shape. Like, that's why we do the Proco bean. Because this is essentially the basic abstract form of the torso right here. The other common mistake I see is like making this space way too big. This space is usually a lot smaller than you think. But yeah, like let's use our proportional measurements to maybe fix this. So we got our head unit here, right? And this is the width here is, yeah, that's about right. I think he thinned it a little bit, but I think that this is one. First off, let's measure out how many heads we got. Okay, so one head right there. That about there would be the sternum-ish, somewhere around here. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's about right, actually. And now the pelvis is going to be about yay high here. About here-ish, I think. So this looking pretty thin to me somehow. Something's off. I think it's because this is a little bit higher than it should be, maybe. Maybe widen it a little bit more too. But yeah, like this space in here would probably be about this much. actually a little bit. Like, this space is always smaller than you think it is, usually. And I would want people to refer to reference from, like, the Michael Hampton stuff, or, like, the actual skeleton. This is where doing drawovers of skeletons can sometimes help, too. But yeah, like... Then we get, like, the sternum in here. I'm just going to run through these really quick. This is going to be like a quick, crude fix of, like, really kind of quickie drawn stuff, because we've already run through the routine of building this thing. So when you get comfortable with building this thing, you can start, like, plowing through the shorthand really quickly, and then you can slow down again and to correct and get more kind of nitty gritty with your measurements and so on. Let's see here. I think that's up a little higher. This should be down a little lower. You just make adjustments and eyeball it as it goes. Yeah, the back end of that should be higher, I think. All right, so I'm gonna give you some ellipses and stuff using what I've drawn here. This will be our art speed run. This will be art anatomy speed run time. Let's see, maybe I want to get rid of this. Get the spine in there. Another thing that's going to help you, because I think it looks like you're struggling with 3D forms, is the site drawbox.com, which will help you with wrapping your head around how 3D forms work, because those are going to be the building blocks of like constructing these figures that we're making. So then what do we do? We need a center line here in the pelvis. Remember, the pelvis is angled up this way. The torso is opposing it. Let's get that pelvis up higher a bit. So this is speedrun mode, so I'm drawing like really kind of loose and dirty. This is like how I draw when I'm sketching usually. Let's get a little of the clavicle in there. Let's maybe get the clavicle in here too. Don't really need it for the profile view. There. So that should be enough to work with, and you can do drawovers of those to get like profile views. So this is something that's like this is like really rough and loose. It's not carefully measured out, but there's a little bit better of a sense of the construction. And that's, you know, that I think I messed up this pelvis a bit though, so I'm gonna adjust that a bit. Okay, Google, stop. So we're back from the break, and I'm going to have us do the anatomical landmark shortly. just trying to build this out a little bit more. This is not perfect by any means, by the way. This is just something that gets a little bit more of a sense of the 3D shapes to them. I would want you to mainly like practice using your own reference and stuff. Also, especially because I think I kind of messed up this area here with the pelvis there, but whatever. We're gonna move on. So I just wanted to do like a quick little speed run draw over. I'm going to screenshot this for you and upload it to Drawing Corner chat, and then I'll turn off the layer so you have free drawing space to use. If you want to bring this into the drawing app again, you can copy paste it into Magma Studio from the image. That copy. Put that into the Drawing Corner chat right here. Mind you, this is really, really crude, so this is like, I don't want you necessarily drawing this crude. I want you drawing more carefully than me. But this is a little bit like if you are struggling with form, sometimes it's a good idea to sort of build out, to just like cut loose and try to sculpt something, basically. So let's take a quick peek at some other people's work. I wanted to do that one because that one looked like it needed the most help. Yeah, there's issues with ellipses going on here, similar to what I was talking about. Pigwidgeon is doing a pretty good job. I would say that there's still some issues with like the placement of the pelvis and the torso there. I kind of messed it up too, but these are overall looking pretty good. I think there might be a recurring issue with how we do the pelvis. That also might be a problem that I'm running into too. So let's see here. Yeah, same issue with the pelvis again. Like people are kind of getting a little lost in that shape. For reference, it's a ellipse. It's kind of a widened ellipse dip shape. Like that. And it has a center line. It goes from where the spine is. It has like a couple corners and like a pit of the crotch sort of triangulation thing that you can use too. Like that. Anyway, I'll tuck this over in the corner for you here. Oh, this is my sheet. Let me know if we need more panels, by the way, so more people can draw. Actually, let me add some more before we go to the... No, actually, no. It would be kind of pointless right now because I need people to... I need people to work with what they've built so far in whatever app they're using. So, yeah, I really fucked up that head in that view here. It's really bugging me. I'm gonna maybe fix that real quick. So it's looking a little too thin to me. It should be like built out a little more, like. There we go. Looks a little better. Okay, so yeah, then this. That's pretty close, actually. All right, so next up, we're going to be see these color-coded landmarks in the Michael Hampton reference right here. We're going to be adding those now. So create a new layer. Let's take get kind of like a reddish orange. Well, no, actually, get like a purple, a magenta purple, like this, and we're going to do the center line right here. So here's our center line. Our center line starts like a little bit above the neck. Just go straight down here from the front view. Yeah. And then we're going to take the 3/4 view. Actually, no, excuse me, folks. Before we get started on this, if you are able to, move your drawings around, I want you to arrange them in order. So we start with front view. Then front 3/4. Oops. Shit, I did that on a different layer, didn't I? Get rid of that then. I don't really need that actually. What? Okay. Well, anyway, so front 3/4, right here. Back 3/4 should be back over here, I think. Back. I'm gonna maybe rotate that back 3/4. Oh no, here's how it goes. Okay, so front 3/4 profile. Back 3/4 and then back. That's how you want it arranged. Sorry, I was like, I don't know what I'm getting like stream performance brain fartiness right now. Maybe I need a few more sips of coffee. All right, so sorry about that, folks. All right, so now we're going to get back into doing this. So get those magenta lines ready. Now we're going to work from left to right on our nicely arranged poses. Just look at the Michael Hampton reference. You can see what I'm doing here, like curving this over the front of the form, like that. I'm curving it a bit more than he did because I have like kind of a more curved physique to the way I drew this guy. But just so you know, like it's going to bulge a little bit more out here. It's going to bulge more out here. And we don't really need, we're not going to draw that in on this part right here. What we're going to draw here is we're going to draw the spine. Alrighty. So this is just a center line. That's not an anatomical landmark. That is a center line. So our first anatomical landmark, we're going to be concentrating mainly on the anatomical landmarks from the front. So first landmark, we're going to take a little bit of blue right here. I'm going to put it under the center line the center line layer I made. Take a little bit of light blue. What that is I forget what that's called, but that's like the little fused bone that's that the part of the top of the sternum that the clavicle connects to. So when we get that, do that again in 3/4 view. It's not really completely necessary to do it in profile, but I'm going to add it, like it's just going to be there. Okay. And then we don't need it for the other two, do we? Alright, so next step, get some yellow. We're doing the top of the sternum. This is, I think Michael Hampton, no, he did, that's just for the back. What's the landmarks for the back?
Would that be the manubrium?
What's that?
The manubrium? Would that be?
Manubrium, yes. Yes. Alright, so, yeah, okay, so blue, the color-coded blue is pit of the neck. Yellow is the manubrium, which is the top, which is basically that little that little thing that looks like the top of a necktie at the top of the the sternum. And now the sternum, we're going to be taking a kind of a pale purple color, like something like this, kind of like what he did. We're going to create that like necktie shape right here. It is kind of that is a little bit grim to think about. Like neckties mimic the front of someone's rib cage, like a skeleton sort of shape. It's actually one of the reasons why I don't like wearing neckties. It makes me think about death. So corners of the bottom of the rib cage. The ends of the thoracic arch of the rib cage. Yes. We're just running down these all together now on the same thing. I'm gonna move back up here to do the clavicle. Take like a reddish orange. Actually, that's not reddish orange enough for my tastes. Something like this. But if you want this guide of stuff, it's pretty easy to find this if you do a Google image search for Michael Hampton landmarks. Alright, so we're going to be taking like a more kind of a bluish violet color for the corners of the pelvis. And the pit of the crotch here. Michael Hampton did like a kind of a line here. You can use a dot to like triangulate it. We'll use a line. So why not? So it kind of looks like it's doing this. Alright, so I'm going to give everyone a chance to catch up. There's a few more things here that Michael Hampton made notes about, like use black for the spine back here. We're just going to like put a little indication, because we know that that's the fucking spine back there. And he has like a little bit of green. I think that's the belly button, isn't it? Yeah, that's the belly button. So we'll forget about the black spine thing here, but belly button. Belly button's going to be like somewhere right around here-ish. A little bit higher, a little bit closer towards the rib cage than the pelvis. Like, yeah, I think somewhere around like here. Like if you swing the ellipse down from the... So I'll do a little really bright yellowish green for that belly button there, so I can differentiate it from the paler, darker green that we're going to use later for the tailbone right there. I'll throw that in, actually. Here. You can go ahead and do that too if you like. Alright, so now using the Michael Hampton reference, you should be able to figure out the rest, where everything goes. From the front view, at least. We have not done the back view yet. The back view is just going to be... Yeah, the back view is just this. And he did black for the scapula. Yeah, we'll do that too. Why not? And there's already like black there for the... There's already like the center line for the spine, but we can throw in this like a little indication of the spine there too. Really good turnout today. This is actually encouraging me to maybe do more anatomy drills like this in the future. These are fun. I mean, like, I like doing these. This is a good way to review your knowledge and stuff. And the point of doing this, by the way, is so you get this into your system so that you can start playing with it a little bit freer. You'd want to do drills like these more than once to really start to memorize it. I mean, the aim of the game with this stuff is memorization and wrapping your head around how these forms work, so that you have more of a range to problem solve, and so your initial sketching has more integrity to it, and also you have the ability to break down and understand things that might be like really, because you're not going to like remember every piece of anatomy when you draw. You're almost always going to need some kind of reference to get yourself more in the ballpark. But check this out. Look, you see how I drew that 3D shape? Like starting here. This is it's a little bit lopsided actually on here. This should be wider. I think that should be shorter. But see, like from front view, this is nice and wide. From this, there's the bicycle handlebar effect. Because these are going off on different angles, so the foreshortening is going to be a bit stranger. And remember, it's like a bicycle handlebar. Like, think of it like the front of a bicycle. Stuff where it's kind of going up at weird angles. There we go. And you can just eyedropper the colors. There's an eyedropper tool, I believe, in Magma. So Michael Hampton did like a really kind of weird angle in his thing. We're doing a really kind of straight orthographic view, so those little things are going to be about there. Alright, so one thing to note is these relate to these. So if you need help on like placing them, you can use like whatever your center line. If the torso is twisting, then these are going to be doing this basically like that. But these are the corners of your the iliac crest of the pelvis right there. At the bottom of the pelvis grid, it really looks like a face now. Bit of the crotch there. Let's see. Did we leave? So we still need.
It looks like a face. I cannot see it.
What?
Since you mentioned it looked like a face, I cannot unsee it.
Well, yeah. To be honest, like stupid little memory tricks like that will come up occasionally when you're doing this kind of stuff too. So I'm actually I'm thinking that it's going to look a little bit strange when this rotates with the colors. Because there's going to be stuff that's going to be vanishing and popping around, like those little things there. So I may get rid of those if I do a turnaround with animation for this, but I want to show people. I want to maybe like close out tonight with a demonstration of how to animate this, how to animate a turnaround of this. If people are down with that,
I'd be down for that.
Mm-hmm. Keep what you've done tonight handy, or maybe Friday, because then we'll build muscle groups off this. Or if if you're unsatisfied with what you did tonight and you want to do it better, just like try multiple cracks at doing this. Try to get 5 poses together and like before Friday, like this.
So do you want us to start from scratch or just do like draw overs and fix their errors?
Whatever works. I want you to get something that's like nicely measured out stuff. And if you want to jump ahead of it, you can even use like an animation software to try to create a rotation. Just know that like if you're doing a rotation, you're gonna need an in between each of these drawings. All you do is you mirror the poses that you need to mirror to get the turnaround. Like these 3 poses get mirrored right here, and then you draw in-betweens between each of the poses, and of course you mirror the in-betweens that can be mirrored. So that means you're kind of like doubling the amount of drawings here, basically. But in-betweens are easier to do if you have good turnarounds to start with. Let's see if I can maybe show some previous turnarounds I've done. There we go. So there's one of them in here that I did not, this one right here, I did not set out to do a turnaround of. So you can see it's like there's stuff that's going all over the place here. Like the shoulders and shrinking and growing, the chest is shrinking and growing and stuff. I did not set out to make this an animated turnaround. This originally started as just some practice of like different poses of a quick sketch model from Watts Atelier. With like a Riley method pose. Oh, that's a bad one. Okay, there's one more I want to find here. I think that's it. No, that's not it. There it is. Alright, so this is like an example of one where I did set out to make this a turnaround, and actually like did it immediately in the like the animation app to start with. But you can see like we are focused on torsos tonight, but like one of those little forms that I was talking about tonight is in that little ellipse there on the neck and at the pit of the neck here. That ellipse here that's turning around a 3D space. It's an ellipse that's tilted towards us, and so when it flips here, it's tilted away from us again in a 3D view, basically. So if that was like completely accurate 3D, there'd be a flip point somewhere in there where it'd be really close to flat, I think. If I were to correct that. But the overall impression when it moves is like pretty close to feeling like it's 3D. Mind you, I did this head without any reference. This was all out of my head. This head was all out of my head. I just practiced like Loomis heads and stuff, Loomis head construction a lot, to be able to understand, like, have a general sense of like how the 3D forms work. Yeah, our derpy pelvises, we're gonna have to work on those. I mean, the reason why I teach these classes is so I can get practice too, of course. So you're gonna see me fuck up. So this is a turnaround of me, basically, of my OC, which I'm going to be doing development art of in the future. I want to make like channel art and animation and stuff for myself. But yeah. This guy right here shows off a little bit of what I was talking about with, like, if you want to indicate like that you're looking at the back, you should like indicate like the shoulder blades, for example. And you can see the center, you can see what I'm talking about with like how his center line his center line changes when it rotates, like. So it goes from being like, oops. Goes from being like flat straight on to like bowing inward, bowing, and like fully bent out. and then it goes back in again. Of course, it's like on the other side now. So now we got this kind of curvy spine form that's doing the same sort of thing, basically. And then because I used like little geometric like landmarks and stuff on this guy to kind of help keep me anchored, like the little ellipses for the kneecaps, I kind of like used volumetric shapes for the legs and stuff, and like for the pelvis I just used like a sphere and then attached like 2 endpoint spheres of my my thighs to it to create kind of like a 3D effect. And the head is based on like the Loomis head, Ethan Becker wedge-ish stuff. You can see me doing the side planes and turning that face wedge around. This one's a little less successful. There's a little bit of warping stuff going on here, but this is of another character I'm kind of trying to develop right now that I'm yeah, there's like, I think his legs I think his legs are like widening and sliding across the floor a little bit, like especially in here. Maybe narrowing his legs would help there. But same stuff as the Spacedad thing. You can see there's a little bit more of a defined sense of his head, at the very least, like his giant goblin ears and nose rotating in 3D space stuff. But anyway, I wanted to bring these up because like what you do when you're going to be creating a turnaround is you start with 5 poses. You start with the front pose, front 3/4 pose, profile pose, profile rear pose, and back pose. And then you mirror those, and then you draw in-betweens. In this case, like I found that it worked to put it on about 32 frames right here. And then like do like do it on 2s, like 2 frames of animation per drawing, basically. So here's an in-between, here's an in-between, here's an in-between. Wait, here's an in-between, 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 in-between. And you mirror the in-betweens, like after you've done them. Stuff. Like that. So like let's say you have an asymmetrical character design. Like a character design that has like one arm that's bigger than the other or something like that, and you're still going to mirror. Make a mirrored model, and then you can add the asymmetrical parts to it after you get the mirrored model established. Like the stuff that is mirrored, get that established first. Like for example, on this, I would like, this is my foundation to now. Like so let's say if Spacedad has some asymmetrical character design, like he has a patch that's on this side of his chest, for example. I'd do another pass where I'd draw individual frames, like with the I might mirror parts of his drawing again, but like the little details like the uniform and stuff that wouldn't be mirrored, those would be drawn separately. So now that you kind of have an idea of that, let's maybe. So what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to maybe see if we can layer some muscle groups onto this guy? Or do you think that would be a bit much for today? Would you like to maybe take a look at like seeing how this looks when I animate it?
Animation sounds pretty good.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I would vote for the animation as well, because it also helps catch any errors that we did during the proportions phase.
Absolutely. Yeah, remember, I did not set out to animate this either, so there's probably going to be really weird stuff that's going to be happening that we'll be able to catch. So I'm going to turn this off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just like, I'm going to do this like the crudest, clunkiest way possible. I'm just going to like straight up copy screenshot of the image here. Now I'll create a new Studio animation file. Get it about to the size where I need it. Let me check onion skinning. Yeah, that's going to work just fine. Just going to extrapolate the individual poses onto layers as I need to. I'm going to maybe label the layers. Front. Okay, so screen right. So I'm going to use a, check this out. I'm going to use a special code to keep myself organized here. So I need to label my layers so I know which one I'm switching to. I'm going to label this one SR for screen right. It's facing screen right. 3/4 front. SR 3/4 F. And so now when I change to this and I right click on the timeline here and I click on, so I right click on the timeline and I click on this frame right here. There we go. By the same token, I'm going to, it's currently labeled as 3. I'm going to label this as front. If there's anything there, move that down. I'm going to actually name this as ref layer. There we go. Let's save this real quick. Save as, let's put it in the class demos file. Nation turn demo. There we go. All right, so take this, get our profile view right here, copy, paste onto a new layer, go over here, create a new panel, right click. Actually, no, wait, we need to, we needed to label it first so we know which one we're doing. But here, I'll have to not have to like kind of search through to find it and shit. It's gonna be annoying. Yeah, there we go. All right, so this is going to be labeled as SRP, which means profile. So what's our next post? Our next post is this one, copy, paste. What we're going to do, we're going to rename it, screen right, 3/4 B for back. New panel, right click, SR 3/4 B back. There we go. Next pose. Copy. Sadly, there's a little bit of this nonsense here. I'm probably gonna have to erase that. Whoopsie. So copy that. Paste. Rename layer. B. Back. There we go. Create a new layer. Create a new panel. B. And now I'm going to turn on onion skinning, and I'm going to turn off. I don't need the ref layer anymore, so I'm going to just get rid of that from the timeline to scoot these over here. My onion skins are a little bit funky. Let me check something real quick. Shit, where's my onion skin setting? I thought I had my onion skin settings hotkeyed. Oh, there they are. They're off screen. Here they are. How mischievous. Alright, yeah, I lowered the opacity of the onion skin really low, so I'm gonna bring that up. So here. Start, stop opacities. 75. 75. Let's try that. Huh. Step opacity. It's 20. Okay. Alright. Well. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna use the onion skinning to get these on the proper layers. I did copy paste these in, so I'm gonna have to maybe put them on multiply layer. I copy pasted these in from a screenshot, so there's white background. So I'm gonna have to put all these layers on multiply, so they become transparent with just the line art on them. Not a problem. All right, so I'm going to use the head as my point of reference for these. So let's see here. Go into this pose here. So as long as the head sphere is in the right spot, then everything else should track. And I can make adjustments to the head and other things too. But first we're gonna see how weird it looks, and then make adjustments as we need to. Whoa, whoa, what the? What? Okay, there we go. Yeah, something weird happening with that back 3/4 head. So first off, let's turn off onion skin and now let's scrub it. See if anything looks off. Well, that back 3/4 view is kind of... like, the 3/4 view seems to be, like, fucking up the proportions a bit, for sure. So let's maybe adjust that somewhat. Doing this a little bit so I have like something that tracks a little better when I'm doing the turn in the onion skin. All right, so let's turn off onion skinning, see if there's anything else to adjust. Yeah, there's some weird shit going on with the shoulders. Alright, so we got this. So maybe use this starting point as my baseline. There. So that needs to come up a bit, doesn't it? We do this. There. Like, I want it to look more like bicycle handlebars turning in space. Now that I think about it, wouldn't like the scapula be doing more something like this? Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? As long as it tracks with this. So what I'm doing right here is a practice called rolling and flipping. So normally with onion skinning, onion skinning you use to kind of track accuracy and stuff. But rolling and flipping is to see if things are working. There's going to be lots of times, there's a lot of times you're going to want to turn off the light table and roll and flip your drawings. The equivalent of doing this for hand-drawn animators in a traditional non-digital animator is you turn off your light table and you flip the drawings. You either sometimes take them off the pegs and flip them or flip them on the pegs a few frames at a time. Sometimes you'll draw a little bit, like adjust, check something, and draw like a little bit more, stuff like that. You really got to watch how traditional animators draw, like Glenn Keane or somebody like that, to see what I'm talking about of what they do. They are keeping the motion alive in their heads when they do this, basically. So, all right, so let's take a look. There's some weird shit going on with the spine. So let's adjust that. So we got the spine nice and straight here. What's happening here that's throwing it off for me, though? This is fine. Something in here. Maybe it's like this. Yeah, that's got to be it. So we do know that there is something weird going on with the pelvis, but let's see if we can use the power of animation to kind of address and fix it, whatever is happening. So we got this ellipse. It's an oblong ellipse. It's kind of shrinking here, isn't it? Shrinking, it looks like this side is coming up a bit. It's kind of weird. Here, that'll help me a bit. So, my new favorite superhero is Ralph Boner. How about you? I think I gave a lot of WandaVision fans PTSD by saying that just now. Can I mention the... No, actually it wouldn't be fair if I mentioned the spoilers, but it is a bit of a letdown for anyone who was invested. I wasn't invested. I was like, it kind of sucks that it didn't go in that direction, but whatever. So I'm trying to fix these things because these are things that are going to trip me up when I get to my in-betweening. But I think I'm going to probably just, because we are going to be short on time, I think I'm going to try to race into the in-betweening phase of this a bit. I'm going to do like a little indication of the shoulder blades back there. Let's see here, like this. And then from the front, they're kind of like... Oh, here's another trick right here. Let's see. Let's do that, and now I can get mirror poses. So now I can see with X-ray vision the shoulder blades through the figure. There's a big jump here. It's really bugging me. So why is that happening? Yeah, there's a big jump in how the shoulder blade moves there. Maybe that's something that would be addressed in in-betweening. Yeah, I think it'll be addressed in in-betweening. Alright. So this is imperfect, obviously. I'm not a 3D modeling program, but the point of this is to like start to think in these terms, like you can use the power of animation to start thinking three-dimensionally about the shapes you draw. I would say that for a lot of people here, like if you are kind of struggling with 3D shapes, maybe like do like cube rotations and stuff before you get into anatomy stuff. Like if you're doing the Draw a Box website things, and you kind of get a good sense of how to construct boxes. Maybe do some 3D box rotations. 3D boxes and ellipses. I think I might know one of the reasons why there's a big jump there. There's a big jump kind of here, too. It's because I'm using the head as the anchor point instead of the torso. But whatever. We gotta move on. Alright, so now that I have this, I'm gonna say that that's good enough for the rest of this little demo here. I'm going to double my frames now. Double and reverse my frames. So that means I'm going to go back in on these and duplicate the frames wherever I need to. That means that mainly just means I need to duplicate these 3 frames. So duplicate this. This is now a screen left. Order copy. I'm gonna let's see here. I'm gonna leave the copy thing there in the text because that lets me identify it easier when I pick it later. Let's see here. Oh, I got that. Then I just flip it, flip horizontal. Of course, I'm gonna have to adjust it. And the head sphere is my anchor point, so I just scoot it over there. Alright, so next one. Take this, duplicate. SL. P. Copy. New panel. SLP copy. Duplicate. SL. There we go. SLB copy. There we go. So these have to be changed in order now. So this is going over here. Oops. This is going over here. This is going over here. This is going over here. That's going, whoops. This is going over here. And I didn't flip this one yet, did I? Flip. Flip. And let's see how it looks when I without in-betweens and like at full speed. It's gonna look really blazing fast, isn't it? There we go. Rotate. Alright, so then to get the 32 frames we want, well, first off, I'm going to put this on 2s, just so we can see how it looks a little bit slowed down. It's probably a shortcut for me to space out the frames and clip, but I'm not really clear on like all the animation workflow tools just yet. Let's boost that out to here. There we go. Yeah, there's some waggly bits going on with that pelvis that I can see. Some waggly cheaty bits going on with the pelvis, but overall it's working pretty well, isn't it? So now the next step is it's going to be boosted out to 32 frames. So that means add 2 more frames to every single one of these. And then each one of these is going to get its own in-between. Also, here's a trick. Check this out. Look. So my endpoint is over here, right? With the 4 frames here. I create a new panel outside over here. Scooted out over here outside the 32 frame marker. And this gets changed to... Hang on one second. I gotta move it into the frame marker so I can change it. This gets changed to F, front view, because that is the starting pose. So what that does for me is now I have onion skinning to see that pose, and any changes I make to that pose back here will ripple up through there. So yeah, let's see how it looks without in-betweens. It's looking pretty good. There's some weird slidey things happening though, especially with the lower body. Let's see what it looks like when I cover up and we just see the upper body. Yeah, I think there's like some adjustments I have to make actually to some of the poses here. Like some of the ones that I flipped specifically. So let's see. Alright, something funky going on here. I think this needs to be pushed out a little bit more there. Maybe not that severe. Like 1, 2. Or does this need to be pushed out over here? And maybe, yeah, this needs to be pushed out over here. That's looking way better. There's a little pop happening in the head, though. Let me figure out what's going on there. I think on this one, I think maybe scoot that one a little bit to the left. All right, let's see here. 1. I'm just making little adjustments here before I go into the in-betweens, because things are going to look really weird if I don't. So this needs to be scooted a little bit more, I think. All right, so now that we have this, panel, 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 panel. So now we only need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 in betweens, I believe, and then we flip the rest. So here's our first in between right here. I'm gonna adjust the onion skin right here. Previous frame. Okay, go. All right, so now this is where onion skinning comes in handy. You are going to want to turn off the light table every now and then to kind of adjust, but you generally want to kind of like break down by component. So I'm starting with like the sternum here. I'm thinking of like how the sternum would change in 3D form right here. So I'm just concentrating on how the sternum works right here for this. Of course, we don't see it here, so we just need it for that. Now I'm going to do the clavicle. So I'm thinking the clavicle will probably be about here-ish, because it's going to be still going to be looping around the front of the chest. Like this, the scapula will be here, looping into it from here. All right, so next component, I'm going to pay attention to the rib cage. Looking at like the green is where it's going, the red is where it's been. Oops, messed that up. That's already starting to look a little bit 3D at the beginning part, isn't it? Let's try flipping those panels that I've done so far. Actually, no, let's hold off on that, because if we get this first part working just fine, then it'll look just fine when we rotate it fully. So let's work on the rest of it. I'm gonna do the ellipses of the pelvis. This is gonna look inherently really wonky because I know that like we didn't handle the pelvis forms the best. But this is a good way to test out what went wrong. Through the power of animation. Yeah, this is kind of like a tilt that it shouldn't be doing. But oh well, I kind of did this. I'm going to have to commit to it, at least for this demo. There's always other studies that I can always do later, where I will do this better. We leave this out? Yeah, we did. So we gotta do this too. So we need a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 drawings. Fully in between here. So you notice this is like pretty close to itself, but this is widening out here because the ribcage is this shape if we look at it from the top. So it appears to widen when it turns. Widen and shrink. So I'm not like just blindly like filling in like the midpoint between these. I'm kind of like thinking about like how closer or further apart something would be three-dimensionally when it turns in 3D space. Let's throw those scapula in there. I'm just gonna power through this. So I want to finish this demo before the class is up, or at least get it far along so I can start making some corrections before we finish tonight. Because there's inherently going to be stuff I'm going to need to fix. And that's kind of inevitable. Alright, let's play it. Yeah, you can see there's like weird shit going on with the ellipse. I think that might be fixed a little bit by if I make this just like a straight dish like that. Let's try that. No, that just makes it worse. Alright, I'm just gonna have to accept that that ellipse there is kind of a little bit funky. We're just gonna have to accept the stanky pelvis this rotation. But the upper torso is looking pretty good. Alright, so now I'm going to work on the head. Or I think any of the stuff that I left out. Let's see what I left out. Shoulder blades and head. That's pretty easy. Just get an ellipse in the same spot. Get my center line. In there. Put my ellipse a little bit flatter against the side of the face. Scoot the Ethan Becker wedge over here. So surprisingly tonight, I wanted us to get to the Ethan Becker simplified torsos. We'll maybe save that for Friday. I wanted to do those, but oh well. I actually want, like, I really liked when we memorized doing the Ethan Becker face wedge, so I actually maybe want to use more of his videos as memorization fodder for like different drawing tools. Like we could literally like do a class series where we are just repetitively practicing the stuff that he gives tips about in his videos, because they're good tips and stuff. And I got a lot out of the face wedge when we practiced and learned that. So I definitely want to use his torso form when we get the chance. We got a little bit further into this than I expected tonight, but that's okay. Okay, so spine would be about here. There. Scapula here. Gonna power through the rest of this. It's gonna be a little wonky inherently. All right, let's take a look at it. It's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to duplicate. What did I do? G, that gets labeled as H. Okay, H. So I'm not going to bother with labeling. I'm just going to power through this. Layer 2 gets duplicated into layer 2A. Okay. Layer 2A. Where's layer 2A? There it is. Layer 3 gets duplicated into, whoops. (3A). And layer, let's see here, layer 4 gets duplicated into 4A. Flip. Flip. I'm gonna have to adjust these, of course. Flip. And flip. Oh, something's going weird here. Okay, that should be that's something else. All right. So this should be, actually, this should be a duplicate. Okay, yeah. I reversed these. So I made a mistake. Check this out. I put these in the wrong order. But that's not a problem. Okay, so layer 4A goes here. And layer H goes here. Let's see, layer 2A gets swapped with layer 3A. Okay, 2A. Oops. All right, so let's see how it looks. It's going to look really wonky in the latter half. It's going to rattle around a bit, but yeah, we got the turn working. Now we got to just adjust the in-betweens to be on point. That's not going to be a problem because we have the head to kind of use as our measuring point. Whoa. What the hell's going on there? Some major bumpage going. Alright, there's probably gonna be weird stuff happening in it, but let's see. Let's take a look. Ah, it works. There's little bits of stuff that's kind of jumping and doing weird things, especially in the lower body, but overall it works. The shoulder blades do have a bit of a pop right here. I think that might be addressed by, let's see here. Maybe making this... The shoulder blade is supposed to wrap over the body a bit more than this, so... Probably be more like that. And then just... There we go. There's still like slidey bits happening in the pelvis, but the upper torso is mostly working okay. There's like a slight feeling of a shrug to it that I think where things got a little wonky, but yeah. For this demo, getting this far is pretty darn good. So let's see here, class demos. There we go. There we go. And I'll upload that as a GIF to class. And yeah, it looks like some people have already put some GIFs in. Whoops. I didn't export it properly, did I? Okay. There we go. Yeah, it's mainly like the lower torso that's bugging me right now. But that's like a matter of just plot out a better shape for plot out better shapes for the bottom torso and redraw it pretty much. Like for the pelvis, I mean. But the upper torso and the head is working pretty good for me. Looks like some people were trying this out too. So make sure you measure stuff out. Train took a shot at it. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So that was the class today. Hope you all guys enjoyed. What time is it now? Yeah. It's about 8:50. Good. So let's go over a couple things real quick before we go. I actually want to raid someone on the way out. Yeah. In the future, I definitely want to... I've been wanting to use the power of animation to study anatomy more. And this is a great example of how to do that. We might be able to do something like this for muscle groups.
I was bamboozled into making animation frames.
What's that?
You bamboozled me into making animation frames.
I mean, if you want to. So, actually, like... So before we go, I'm gonna suggest people gather good reference from like Michael Hampton and stuff. But let's go over some art books real quick. I'm gonna write a list later, but for now, let's look at some art books that might be helpful for people. So here's one, Michael Hampton, figure drawing. Maybe I think I'll add these to a I'm gonna add these to a public wish list. Create a list. Say, whoops, damn it. Create a list. Spacedad's suggested art books. There we go. So Figure Drawing and Design Invention by Michael Hampton. Let's see. see some stuff here to use. And the suggested the Morpho books are great. Okay. Bridgman's Complete Guide to Drawing from Life. Elliot Goldfinger, right there. The Anatomy for Sculptors. Atlas of Human Anatomy. Oh, there's Steve Houston's book right here. I actually need to pick this up. Sarah Semblett's pretty nice. Sarah Semblett is one that you definitely want a physical copy of. It's a really flashy book that's fun to practice from. Drawing the Head and Hands. Let's see here. Joseph Shepard's got a good book there. Mike Mattisi's Force book. He's also got an Anatomy Force book. Gottfried Bamas. This is not Gestalt Dimension. Gestalt Dimension is a much larger book. It's like an 800-page book or something. This is like a smaller version that has like much less stuff in it. You want to get the 800-page version if you can, but that's really hard to get a hold of. Here's Mattisi's anatomy book. Let's see. Glenn Vilpoo's, for some reason I think it's out of print, but that one's a really good one. But here I'll add these all to, let's see, Dynamic Anatomy, Dynamic Figure Drawing. Yeah, any of the Morpho books are good. There's a Russian Figure Academy book right here. It's in Chinese, but it's worth picking up for the visuals in it. But yeah, let's see here. Figure Drawing for Altsworth. Let's put it Spacedad's suggested art books. Let's put them in there. There's a bunch of like these small Bridgman books that are like really small and easy to carry around. I do recommend these. Any of these. They're usually pretty cheap. You'll find a lot of them on used markets, but I'm gonna put like one of the Morpho books in here, but any of the Morpho books are good. There's a lot of different books in the Morpho series. This one's more for painters, right here, James Gurney. But James Gurney has a couple books. I'll put those on the list too. Like I don't care about this as much because I'm an animator, but it's worth it to have on the list. I'll leave it off the list for now, honestly. So this is a Scott Robertson book that's an essential tool of beginning and advanced draftsman right here. So put that. I'll put this in here in the Morpho here. I need to clean out my shopping list. There's some old, back when I thought gamer chairs were good, there's like some computer upgrade lists where I had like office and gaming chairs with fucking oh, here we go. Watts on Bridgman. That's a Jeff Watts book that breaks down how to study George Bridgman. So let's see here, add to list. So this one right here, the Elliot Goldfinger, it's a really dry book, but it has like really in-depth anatomy stuff in it. And this one's a really, really handy reference tool for artists. Let's add this Atlas of Human Anatomy for the artist. That's another one. Add to list. This one right here by Joseph Shepard. I'm gonna add that. Heck, let's add Bridgman here. Let's add the small Bridgman book. Yeah, let's just add these. Let's power through these. Why not? Just add them all. Add them all. Oh, this one right here. Vanderpool. This one's a small book, and it's easy to carry around. This one's really good. Let's see here. Anatomy for Sculptors by Aldous Zarins and Sandis Kondrats. This one's an essential book for any artist, I think. There's also by the same creators. There's also an Anatomy for a Facial Expressions book that's also essential. I'm gonna add that too.
Did that say it was $300 for that anatomy book you were just on?
That's how it is on Amazon. If you want to get the book, use this as don't buy them from Amazon. Try to see if you can find for sculptors. You want to try to see if you can find like on the website by the author or something like that. Like here, for example, the U.S. Britain version of it is like $55. And there's also I think there's an ebook version that's only $45. I have an ebook version. I want to get a physical version at some point. They also have them in different languages too. So check websites, check other seller sites and stuff for prices and so on. Like the Glenn Vilppu one, I think you can find that pretty easily for a good price. Let's try that drawing manual. Glenn Vilppu. Shopping. So weird that it's really hard to find it. Like this is something that oh wait, here's the ebook. This looks like no, they're just charging for a shitty scan of the ebook. Don't buy this. Honestly, like if you can find this book by some means, I think you should go for it because normally that's in print for like $20, and for some reason it's not, which is really strange. But Glenn Vilppu's book is an essential book, just however you get a hold of it. Stuff. Let's see, suggested art books. Steve Houston's book here. The Sarah Simblett book, this is one that I strongly recommend getting a physical copy of because it has like all these overlay things transparent overlay things, and it's a good coffee table book that you can use for practicing stuff from. Like lots of good figures to do big sketchbook and large drawing pad practice from. It's a very large book. It's a very nice book. I think we added this to the list, didn't we? Yeah, I think we did. And that. Mike Mattisi's Force series. He's got like an animal drawing one and a character design one, and an anatomy one in addition to this. So there's like four or five Mike Mattisi Force books. Here's the main one. Let's add the anatomy one here. Force Companion. Quick tips and tricks. Can't speak to how good or bad that book is, though. The character design one is good, though. And the animal drawing one is good. How many pages is this, though? What? 504 pages. Gestalt Dimension. Bomis. How many pages is it? Die Gestalt Dimension by Godfrey Bomis. How many pages? Okay. Okay, if this is not the watered down version of the book, definitely pick this up. Okay, wonderful. Looks like they finally translated the full thing. If this is like 504 pages and stuff, then this is the full book. So this is a definite must-have, I would say. In fact, I want to pick up a physical copy of this as soon as I'm able to be honest. This is a very essential book, and I'll show you why. The cover doesn't look like much. Thomas. But look what's in... I'll show you what the interior is like. There's stuff like this. And this. Like, really very, like, sculptural, built out, very, very clear stuff. There's, stuff like this. Like, that's amazing. Stuff like this that's, like, more simplified and stuff. That shows, like, range of motion of the body. Things like that. There's stuff like this, more abstract forms, and so on. There's pages like this, which are great for animators. Check this out. Like, you could literally, like, do an animation study using this. In fact, I'm tempted to do that in the future for one of my classes. Like, I just rip one of the pages from Bomis and then do literally, like, an animation study where I use these as key poses and then create the in-betweens and stuff. Here's a 3D skeleton somebody made based on Bomis right there. That's neat. Yeah, Bomis's book is a must-have. The sheer scope of everything that's in it, it's like 500 pages long, so there's a lot to dig into, and there's a lot to study and practice from. Like, you can whip out his book and, like, practice something from it a little bit every day. So I do strongly recommend picking up that book. Framed Ink, this is more kind of a visual storytelling and composition thing. This is good for, like, storyboard artists and comic artists and illustrators. I'm gonna put that in there. Other books by the same author, Framed Ink 2. It's got a couple perspective books. Just add those in. Let's add them all in. Let's add them all. Fine, we'll add in James Gurney. Well, Miss James Gurney. All right. I'll add James Gurney in because his books are fun to read. Inspiration. And we'll add Loomis in. I know that one's a pretty okay book. Fun with a Pencil has some, like, old-timey cartoon stuff in it that's also kind of worth looking at. I think we got the Force Anatomy. Remember, for the Vilpu drawing manual, this one's out of print, so just be wary of that. Okay, there's a lot of Bern Hogarth books. Pretty much all of them, but it's, like, especially his hands book. Some people kind of object to the very spaghetti people way that Bern Hogarth draws his figures, but that's kind of a taste thing more than anything. He's a very comic booky oriented artist for sure, but there's a lot to take away from him. He used to teach at Art Center a lot back in the day, before he passed away. Oh, Jack Ham drawing the head and figure. This is also a good one. Add that. This How to Draw Animals. I think this is also by Jack Ham. That one's also great. This is kind of like older school cartooning, but this is also a good one to look at too. Let's see if there's any more. Let's add the Russian Figure Academy book in there too. There's several Russian Figure Academy books, by the way. They're usually printed in Chinese, but they're worth getting for the visuals. And don't worry, I'm going to share this wish list. Feel free to buy them for me as a gift, by the way. If I can't use them, I'll just give them to somebody. But yeah. But no, it's just going to be a reference list.
You say that, but I'm gonna go out and buy like half these books.
Well, I mean, for me, that's what I mean. Oh, this one's a good book. Here. Just adding a few of these portrait books that I know are good. This one's a good one right here from Tom Bancroft. Let's add that. That one's for character design. Now we're going to get more into animation territory. So that one needs to be added. That one. This is another Tom Bancroft book. That's really good. This is Preston Blair animation, a cartoon animation book. Steven Silver's character design book. Illusion of Life by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston. That's an essential animator book. Character design crash course by Eric Goldberg. It's an essential animated book. Nine Men. That's an essential animator book. Animated survival kit. Really the trifecta of like the main animation books you should have is Animated Survival Kit, Illusion of Life, Eric Goldberg, and I would say the Preston Blair book actually. So 4. Drawn to Life. There's 2 books in this series. This one's very animator oriented figure drawing. So add both of those to the list. Directing the Story. This one's for storyboard artists. Just a drawing for animation. Yeah, if this is the book I'm thinking of, that one's a good one. I think these 2 are good too. Yeah. This is the book that I'm thinking of. Well, I won't add it to the list because I can't really vouch for this one. But yeah. So I think that's a pretty good starter list, to be honest. I'll add other things to it if I can think of any. But, yeah. Spacedad suggested art books. I'm going to make this public. Let's make this a public list. How do I... Let me take this off camera because it's got my Amazon info here. How do I make this list public? Shit. Yeah, it's having me do a CAPTCHA thing in order to log in so I can share this. Alright, well I don't know how to make it public just yet, but here, I can share the link to the wish list real quick. And before we lose too many more viewers for our raid, I'm going to put us on our raid now. So that'll help a little bit. That'll be my Amazon wish list right there. Feel free to buy any of those for me as a gift. I mean... actually, yeah, some of these I already own, though, is the thing. If you do buy them, just ask me if I own a copy of it already. But some of these I used to own, but then I lost them.
So which ones did you recommend for animation? Again, I didn't quite catch those.
Well, they're kind of self-evident in the list. But the main ones is... Here, let me bring that up again. So the main ones that are essential for animators to have is Animated Survival Kit by Richard Williams, Character Animation Crash Course by Eric Goldberg, Illusion of Life by Ollie Johnston and Frank Thomas. And Cartoon Animation by Preston Blair. There's more than just these, but those are like the 4 main ones. Alright, so we're gonna raid someone. Let's see who is raidable right now. We're gonna find someone who is preferably someone I know that we can pay a visit to. Make Animation, that might be one to raid. I know them. We've raided them before a few times. Looks like they're the only one. Oh, there's also this. What's this? What's this person doing? Shit. We'll probably raid Make Animation, but I want to see what this person's about. That's neat. But we're raiding. I think we'll be raiding Meg again today. Yes, you're welcome for the class. There we go. Everyone get on board with the raid. And I'll see you guys over there. So I'm going to be trying to get some more figure practice in tomorrow. I've got some prep I need to be doing for my animation stuff that I'm going to be doing next month too. So you're going to be seeing me do a lot of that. Taking a storyboarding and an animation class next month. So I've got to prep my character designs that I'm going to be using for those.
Is the next class going to be a continuation of this one?
Yes. We'll also take the time to do a little bit extra of figure drawing mileage. We'll try to get like a little bit of figure drawing every time, like we'll get like 1 to 2 sets at the very least, even if we like go into something like this. I ideally would want us to, so what I'll either do is I'll have us like work on the muscle groups for these next time, or I'll have like or I'll have us do like freehand figure drawing sets using basically like this. Freehand figure drawing sets, or like draw over studies, where we try to find the bones in draw overs of stuff.
Understood. I'm going to try to work a bit more on my turnaround until then. Still needs a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the class. I'll be seeing you later. I'm gonna have to go to sleep now.
Yeah, we're raiding right now.